Either one. Welcome everyone to another edition of Divorce News That You Can Use. This is Charlie Jamieson. I'm a board-certified marital and family law attorney in West Palm Beach, and my guest today is Dr. Ann Lehman. Her office is located at 430 26th Street in West Palm Beach, Florida. Dr. Lehman is a PhD psychologist who has a practice dealing with families, dealing with trauma, substance abuse issues, and there's just regular family type issues. And of course, I say that with almost tongue-in-cheek because issues with families are not regular, doctor. Yeah. They're anything but regular. But today we're talking about a very important issue. It's called attachment. And attachment we often hear in custody or time-sharing cases, and sometimes we just hear about it in just everyday terms of people dealing with their families, people dealing with their spouses, people dealing with other people. So doctor, if you could just tell us, what is attachment?
Attachment is a strong, a deep emotional bond. It's almost like if you think of it in terms of an animal, your pet, you feel connected with that animal. That would be a best way to describe it. And I'm not saying kids are like animals, but it's a good way to describe a bond. You really know your child. You can predict their movements, you can predict their emotions almost, just by watching them and listening to them.
Well, we talk oftentimes, if you read the literature and in time-sharing cases, we talk about the importance of bonding and attachment in the first 3 years of life. Is that really true?
Absolutely true.
And why is that true?
Because of the trust. If a child can cry as an infant and wait for its mother to come, or its father or caregiver to come and feed it, then it knows that there's somebody going to take care of me. And that's an underlying issue of trust. You've got to have a trust bond there. If they're uncomfortable and they make a movement, or they scream, or they cry, and there's somebody there that comes to meet my need, I'm okay. Because from a child's perspective, the world revolves around the child. Everybody's there to help me and save me.
And can there be more than one bonding or trusting attachment for a child?
Absolutely, and that's a very important question because adults often ask me, well, I wasn't close to my child when he was young, or, not as close to them now because I didn't have that when I was growing up. But an attachment figure can be a teacher, or it can be a coach, it can be an aunt, and oftentimes an uncle, even an older cousin. If that child feels as though they have a bond with that person, that's very, very important in that child's life.
I think you brought up an important point that often comes up in some of the cases I have, and just talking to some of the people that I know. Sometimes people say, well, I had a very close bond or attachment or connection with my son or my daughter when they were very young, but as they matured and got older as teenagers, that sort of we drifted apart. Is there something that can be done or to help remedy that or to reconnect?
I think that's a good question. And as a parent myself, when they became adolescents, I basically threw the book out the window. I mean, we tried to follow, guidelines up to that point, but then it got to a point where, what do I do with that? And it becomes very emotional. I think the best thing, and not to sound trite, but the best thing is to sharpen your view, your eyes, what are they doing? And then sharpen your ears. What are they saying? What are their friends saying? What are they saying about their friends? Is keeping attunement to, what's really happening in their lives. I think when you have a sense of that and you begin to talk their language and really listen to what they're saying, I often suggest to people that they listen to the emotion behind the words rather than get caught up in the words. Because if you get caught up in the words of an adolescent, things are going to go skyrocketing pretty quickly.
So, that may lead me to my next question, which is, we're talking about adolescence and how to help make a better attachment or bond to adolescents. But this is why, I guess that leads me to the question, what I deal with, which is in custody or time-sharing or visitation cases, depending upon where you are, the term may be used interchangeably. But why is attachment then so important in these kinds of cases?
In the child custody cases?
Right.
Because how am I going to determine? I'm going to try to determine a child's life from this point, which is a very critical position to be in when you're in the middle of a divorce and time-sharing. You're basically going to change that child's life. So how do I go about doing that? Well, the old way is social investigation or child custody evaluations, where we do psychologicals and we interview the children and we give them tests and we watch the dyads as you're playing. This additional way that we're suggesting, in my practice, is taking a look at the attachment. what is the bond like between the parents and the children? And we do that by talking about parenting. We don't do an objective assessment. We do an evaluation or an observation. What are the dyads doing? How was that parent raised? Because guess what? That's how I learned to parent from my parent. And anything else that I bring in on top of that, always that's a basis. So I've got to begin somewhere, with my parenting. So we want to take a look at parenting and what it really looks like, what it really sounds like, and then we bring it to the court and say, here, this is what it is.
And in the context of what we were just talking about, for particularly people like me who like to keep things simple, because I like simple lives, you're using words like dyads or triads. In the context of a time-sharing issue, what are we talking about? How's that defined?
You and I are a dyad right now, and if you were a child, we would just be sitting here and talking, and I would be observing, how do we talk? Are we in tune with each other? Are you listening to me? Am I listening to you?
So if I was doing this, that'd be a bad thing, right?
It might not be the best,
but if I start sliding away, that's not a good thing?
No, probably not.
All right. So I'm not trying to give you hints of how to handle your interviews with social evaluators. No. That was just a little, shall we say, objective lessons of what not to do in that. So we talked about what's important in terms of custody or time sharing. We talked in this measure of how do you measure it in that. But let me ask you this, in dyads, I'm sure there's attachments in terms of individuals with their children, and we talked briefly about teenagers. Is there any other way that you can improve your attachment with children who are younger?
Absolutely.
And how are some of the ways you might be able to do that as a parent?
Okay, and younger, we're talking 6 and under? You want to go there?
We can do let's do 6 and under, and then maybe 6 to pre-adolescent.
Okay. 6 and under is my favorite because it's a 4-letter word that begins with P, and that's play. Play, 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 play. My research when I first started my practice was all about play because that is the work of children. So the more I get down on my hands and knees and play with my child, the better is my attachment because that child sees me on their eye level and I'm doing the things that they love to do. And it's silly, it's silly play. They love that. So that's the best way.
What's another way, say, for ages just roughly 6 to pre-adolescent?
That's becoming, much more independent. So, I hate to advertise things on my phone, but the child at 10, 11 years old, they're very interested in social media. Now, I'm not going to be the one to suggest that we do social media, but allowing some things like social media. There's a app on the phone that's where you can kind of sing along the words. I forget what the app's called, but that's really fun. You don't have to put it on live, but it's fun to work with them and do things with them at their age level. So if you're okay with them and you supervise their behavior on a phone with an app, that's fun too. But the point is to reach them at their age level and find something that's really important with them.
Now, finally, let me ask you this, because this is always a burning issue among adults, particularly busy professionals nowadays. We seem as we're busy in our professional lives, we go home, and you hear plenty of stories of adults who are starting to drift apart in their relationships. How would you recommend for those kinds of individuals who experience those problems, how do we try to re-cement or recreate it or strengthen the attachments that we have with spouses or other important adults in our lives?
Okay. That's a tough one because that's about half of my business is, okay, I've been with this person for 20 years and I'm growing apart. So what do? And we first start with the pluses and minuses of the relationship with an objective person. It's hard to do it yourself. You can start there, but then you end up getting into a side conversation. So I would recommend with an objective person, pluses and minuses of our relationship are this. What are we willing to do to change to make it better? Because maybe one person isn't willing to make that change, but maybe you are. So that's very important to figure out. I'm working on a case like that right now, where one person is very happy the way they are, and the other one isn't.
Now, do we call that attachment therapy, marital therapy, or what do we call that?
Well, there's a couple different things that we can call it. I'm looking at the attachment relationship. I'm using systems family therapy because I'm looking at the thing that happens between the person. It's the relationship or the system between the two people. It's not you, it's not me. We contribute to this thing. And it makes it much more objective to talk about. I can take more emotion out of it and get more done that way. That's why I choose it.
Okay. So if you were going to describe your practice then to the audience and indicate the places where you believe you bring your strengths are, that you can help adults, children, whatever the age of the individuals may be. How would you describe that?
There's a word that I put on my business card, and it's complex. And people have teased me about that. They said, well, why did you put that on there? And I said, well, because with family issues, they're multi-generational and they're more than two people. So often we've got grandma being a very dominant figure in a couple's relationship. And so we've got to dissect that relationship in order to rebuild it in a healthy way. And that's basically what I do, is just dissecting it and then rebuilding it and teaching skills along the way, how to make it better. It doesn't have to end and it doesn't have to erupt. It's just how to make it better.
Now, currently, Doctor, it's my understanding you have some kind of a special offer that you are providing to professionals and or individuals. Would you like to comment on that?
I do. I have the opportunity of a world-renowned attachment specialist here in West Palm Beach for the month of April. And what I'm offering is if you have a situation with children and you're thinking about contemplating a divorce, then she is willing to come in and do an attachment evaluation of the parents and the children and their relationship. And she's willing to do it for free. And this goes about $4,000 to $6,000 typically, but what she is, she's a researcher. So she needs, examples in order to prepare papers and to prepare presentations. So that's why she's willing to do it. It's a great opportunity, and it's much more personal. And even if you didn't use it in court, it gives you an idea of what your relationship really is and how you can improve it.
All right, so you don't even need to be on the throes of a divorce or separation. It just could be if you think you need to fine-tune some your family and your connections with one another. It'd be a great way to get it assessed and attuned. And if they were trying to reach you about this or to reach you regarding having their own sessions with you, could you indicate to the audience your telephone number, email address, and your address once again?
Sure, okay. Let's start with the telephone number. It's 561-701-3159. The email is PB, as in Palm Beach, Family Psych, and that's PSYCH @gmail.com. And the address is in Northwood, just north of City Place, at 430 26th Street. It's a residential home. We purchase the home and we run the business out of the home to give them more personal feel.
I've been there. It's a lovely place. They have a beautiful table that every time I go in, I think I lust for. If I could, I think I'm like that guy in the commercial, the teeth on the beige couch. I see the table, I said, oh, it's just made for me. But anyways, folks, we want to thank Dr. Lehman for being with us today. Attachment is a very important issue. I've learned something today, and I hope that you all have. I'm Charlie Jamieson. You can contact us regarding your family law matters or divorces. Our number is 561-478-0312, or you can contact us at CDJ, and again that's CDJ@CJAMIESONLAW.com. And I'm being flashed by Marva behind the camera here. And once again, thank you for attending the divorce news that you can use. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.